Welcome back, guys. We are back in the seats of kind of what I was doing back in 2020 to 2021, 2022, kind of filming my daily life as a realtor. Now, this is just going to be a one-off video. Thought it would be kind of cool to take you along and showcase what one of my investment properties has done since I purchased it in 2021. So I'm not going to go back to doing this all the time, but if I get an opportunity, obviously I'll take you guys along. So today we are headed to a property south of Dallas, about 45 minutes, not the rough south part of Dallas, but about 45 minutes south of Dallas, where I have one investment property that I've had since 2021. If you've been following me on this channel, you've probably seen all of the headache that this property has caused me. And I don't even think I talked to you guys about the $30,000 or $40,000 I put into this property last year as well. Well, this is actually going to be step 2 in the process of building our forever home. Now, step 1 was actually acquiring a lot sometime in this year, 2024. Well, again, if you've been following this channel, you saw that we purchased roughly a 2-acre lot in Southlake, a little shy of $1 million. Now, the next step is going to be a significant step, and that's transitioning from more of a lot loan for just $1 million to a build or construction loan roughly north of $3 million. Now, obviously with a construction loan, what that takes is a significant down payment. Now, I have an available HELOC out that I can essentially use to help for some of that down payment, and that's when this property actually comes into play, is I'm gonna be selling this property and rolling the profits into kind of a high yield savings account until we start the construction loan next year. So the funds from this property will essentially be used in addition to the HELOC, as well as some other funds that we have saved along the way, and that will basically get us our $600,000 down payment or $620,000 down payment that we need to start the construction loan. But the biggest takeaway from this video is to showcase that yes, investment properties have made me money. Investment properties have been very, very good to me as a whole, but they also come with plenty of, I guess, downside as well, which I'll get into when we actually get to the physical property. Okay, so as you guys can see right below me, a little bit of dry soil here. That's gonna be one of the things that we addressed prior to listing. But there's a handful of other things that unfortunately just keep coming up with this property. Now, to compare the two, again, dating back to 2021, I bought 2 different properties for investment purposes. I bought this property in Ennis, Texas, and I also bought a property in Fort Worth. Both of them were major remodels. However, the downside to this one is it's just constantly been a money pit. So before it costs me any more money than it already is to get it up, get it sold, and get it out from underneath me, we're gonna just take the money and run essentially. Now, the other property, I may wind up having to sell depending on where my finances are to ultimately do that construction loan. But as of now, what we figured out we need to do is, once again, for the 3rd time, we need to address the foundation. The plumbing's already been done. I did that last summer, as well as the entire driveway and garage. That's all brand new. Between those two, I spent about $30,000, but I also spent about $100 grand just redoing this house when I initially bought it myself. But we're gonna redo the foundation again. We're gonna fix the doors, fix the trim, repaint all of the issues with the original person that remodeled this house and didn't paint it correctly. And we're probably gonna wind up replacing carpet just because that's a small expense. Resawed this entire front yard here and get it on the market. Now, as far as numbers go, when it comes to this particular property, it was also getting a little bit tight in terms of cash flow because this area, just like the rest of Dallas-Fort Worth, taxes have gone up astronomically, which changed my mortgage to about $1,600 or $1,700 to almost $2,100. Well, I'm only pulling in about $2,400 a month in rent here. So not a ton of cash flow either anymore on this property. So just walking you guys through real quick, one of the biggest things that you learn when you remodel houses is pay people appropriately, because if you don't, they'll paint essentially with the wrong type of paint. So I have people coming in here and redoing work that I paid someone to do back in 2021. But again, as you can see with the doors here, I've learned a lot over the course of the last couple of years just when it comes to remodeling and paying what you feel is appropriate for a house. Now, it's a little dark in here, you may not be able to see entirely, but there are massive cracks all over the house just from foundation. Now, these cracks are actually a combination of a few things. We've addressed the foundation multiple times here, as you can see out front. It's also not been getting any kind of water, which doesn't help with the soil down here in Texas. And also on top of all of that, we've also dug underneath the house substantially to not do foundation, but to redo all of the plumbing. So we got rid of the cast iron plumbing and replaced it with PVC. That was a solid 20 grand that I spent on plumbing alone last summer. Now, just to showcase a little bit more when it comes to foundation, you get cracks all the way in your fireplace. You get cracks where you can kind of see the separation from the actual fireplace and the trim and mold here. This foundation on this house has just been a constant issue. It's not to say that I'm excited to get rid of it, but I'm excited to get rid of it because it's going to get me that much closer to starting the construction job in South Lake. Now, as far as numbers here, I'm just gonna give you some ballpark numbers. I'll probably make an entire video of what it looked like purchasing this property, as well as what the final numbers at the end of the day. It has been renting out over the course of really the last 3 years. So if you want to add some cash flow on a monthly basis, I'll try to factor that into the entire video myself as well. But really, I would say probably what I'll wind up actually being taxed on when it comes to the capital gains or just the profit that I made on this property, with all things considered, sitting at about $100,000, maybe to $120,000. So roughly my capital gains tax on this will be a little over $20,000, $25,000, but I'll be able to take that 120 or 100, 120,000 and apply it to my HELOC, as well as additional funds, as I mentioned earlier in this video, to kind of stockpile that $600,000 to $650,000 down payment that I'm gonna need for our beautiful forever home. Well, honestly, it was a little bit more than expected, but I'm also not shocked because having fixed the foundation on that house 2 separate times already, and then had to also dig underneath the house to replace the plumbing, it's one of those things that I just, at this point, am numb to. Now, the other property that I just mentioned in Fort Worth, I think I've spent a total of like $1,500 in the same amount of time over the course of the last 3 years doing any kind of repairs. The tenant's been great, always pays early. Nothing wrong with this tenant, but, and I say that and I actually haven't visited the property in Fort Worth in ages, but he's an overall solid tenant, but the house itself is just holding up way better than this house. All right, we are all set up with utilities. I got electricity and gas set up last week. With these older, smaller cities, you have to go physically in person to set up water and trash. So we are all set on utilities now. Some people may see the issues with the house, you know, my fiance included, and be a little worried, concerned, like, hey, there's no way this is gonna sell. And this is when it actually helps to be a little bit more financially secure when it comes to investing in real estate. Is most people in this case would be like, oh my gosh, I hate this property, it's costed me so much money, you know, I've racked up credit card debt and I'm just going to put it on the market in its current shape. Well, I'll tell you what, in its current shape, it would not provide me with a very positive return. Now, yeah, I could sell it, but I'd be giving up tens of thousands of dollars because of its current condition. Now, it's also nice to have connections where my tenant literally is going to be the contractor that resods the front yard. He's also going to do a handful of other things to help me sell the property, but we also have some painters over there that are fixing the trim and painting the doors right now. We'll get the foundation done by week's end, have the painters come back out and reinstall the doors, fix any of those cracks and whatnot, because there's likely to be more after the foundation has been fixed, fix a couple of the issues with the tile in the bathrooms. I'm thinking probably replace the carpets just because they smell like cat. And then from there, just like I said, finish off the sod work in the front, make it look nice and pretty. And you know, the little bit of money that I'm going to be spending right now is definitely going to be found back in the ultimate price that we wind up selling it for. It is a cost of investing in real estate where, yes, there's going to be upkeep on a house. Some, unfortunately, far more than others, such as this, which is probably the biggest reason I'm offloading it. There's also external factors, as I continue to mention, where, you know, we need funds to be able to come up with that significant down payment for the forever house. So when it comes to actually investing in real estate and putting your money in the right places, when it comes to remodeling it, I'm gonna actually stop and just show you some B-roll of what this house used to look like and the work that has since been done. Now, yes, there's more additional work that needs to be done now, and I would have loved to hold this property forever, and I essentially thought I was going to do that. That's why I spent $20,000 on all new plumbing. That's why I spent 10 or 15 grand on the entire new driveway and garage. But again, things come up, makes sense to reinvest that money elsewhere. But there's definitely money to be spent that's spent wisely, I guess you could say. Now, you could see when we walked through the house, the kitchen is still what I would consider modern. Also, the primary bedroom is relatively modern. Now, sure, could you go out and make it a little bit nicer here or there? Yeah, but if you compare it to what was there prior, it is much nicer and much newer than it was, especially when the house was built. But also when it comes to spending money, when it comes to remodeling, paint is going to be your best friend, meaning paint is cheap, generally speaking, unless you've got 20 cracks in the house and you've got doors that need to be repainted and so on and so forth. Again, the whole door situation should have never happened. It was just a crappy contractor that painted it the wrong type of paint. Typically, you're not painting doors after every single tenant, but also, in addition to paint, carpet. So as I mentioned just a second ago, I'm likely to replace the carpet just because carpet is relatively cheap. It's not going to be a large expense at the end of the day to make it just that much nicer, saying, hey, brand new carpet, it smells much better, and it's not going to deter anyone from buying. So paint and carpet are your best friends when it comes to rental properties. Kitchen and bathrooms are going to be your best friends when it comes to just getting that highest resale value, the highest rental amount in that given submarket. And these are just things that you will learn over the course of investing in real estate. I tell people when it comes to the lessons that I've learned, especially in this particular property, I'm basically paying for education. Yeah, we're gonna have to go back through and paint all the doors. Now, it would have been nice if the doors were painted correctly up front, but there's also lessons to be learned from that as far as, you know, hey, why are you painting it with this type of paint when that's just going to peel off in the next couple years? So again, some things that wind up costing me more money in the long run, but it's all in proper education. Well guys, I am officially back home. It's about 30 to 45 minute drive down south. I do have to make an additional phone call or two. I'm gonna get a couple quotes from foundation companies, as well as see how much it costs to get some sod and maybe some proper landscaping in the front there, clean up the side a little bit. There's actually 2 HVAC units in the house itself. The right side unit has kind of sunken in, so I also have to get some landscapers to redig that up and kind of reset that, as well as some other miscellaneous stuff that just needs to get done. Now, some of this stuff is not going to obviously yield me the best return on my money, but at the end of the day, I need to get the house sold. And by sell the house, I mean sell it for a relatively solid price. But just to give you guys an update here in terms of where I am financially, because everything's kind of leading to that construction loan early next year. We're at about $200,000 or $300,000 available in the HELOC. This is probably going to yield us another 100 to 150, so we're going to be anywhere between that 3 to 450K mark. We do need to get all the way up to 6 or 650, but I've got about 4 or 5 different ways that I can essentially get a significant amount of funds, whether or not it's selling my brokerage account shares, selling my other investment property, which I'm kind of leaning against selling that particular property just because it's been so hands-off. It's truly been more passive income versus this property that has just been an absolute headache. And obviously I've got the next 6 to 9 months of income, multiple different income streams that I have of saving funds to be able to save up for that $600,000 to $650,000 down payment. Now the good news is once that construction loan is actually funded, the only thing I'm going to really have to pay is that monthly interest. Now that monthly interest will accrue over time as I continue to pull money from that construction loan. So essentially it's going to be cheap up front. Towards the end of the 12 to 18 month build job, it's going to be more expensive. But at the end of that 12 to 18 month build job, I'm going to be refinancing to my VA loan. And really, if you account for all my other investment properties and the cash flow that they provide, even if I do sell this one as well as one more, I'm essentially going to be living in a $3 or $4 million house for free, just from the passive income that my real estate properties earn me on a monthly basis. Now this video is just an update for you guys to kind of show you the good and the bad of real estate investing. I will say I have a handful of properties myself, and they have been, for the most part, this one's probably been the most tedious, but for the most part they have generated significant cash flow or a decent amount of appreciation, and they've essentially built my net worth over the course of the last 7 years since I started investing in real estate. Now what's going to be nice is when I have one standalone property that's going to be valued anywhere from $3 to $4 million. My fiance and I's goal is to pay that off sooner rather than later. Even though I'm not the biggest advocate of paying down a mortgage, I'd rather reinvest that money elsewhere. I do have a solid amount of income being invested elsewhere, meaning my other rental properties, my stock accounts, and my retirement accounts that, hey, if we're able to live essentially mortgage-free outside of taxes and insurance on a pretty nice home that we're gonna spend the rest of our lives in. At the end of the day, that's just gonna give us a solid peace of mind. But again, guys, this is gonna be a significant process over the course of the next 2 to 2.5 years. This is step 2 in terms of acquiring enough funds for that construction loan. But stay tuned for the next video that I may have coming in the next couple months with another update on our forever home. Thanks again for watching, guys. Make sure to like and subscribe, and stay tuned for the next video.